सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। हरि ओम। Om. Om. May Brahman protect us both. May Brahman bestow upon us both the fruit of knowledge. May we both obtain the energy to acquire knowledge. May what we both study reveal the truth. May we cherish no ill feeling toward each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnan Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Om Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah. So today our topic would be the first two chapters of the Great Master, about 16 pages. As I mentioned earlier, we are not going to read every paragraph. I am going to take, and I will tell you before taking, which we are going to study. What are the essential points? How we understand better in the light of Thakur's own life. Understanding Thakur's life in the light of Thakur's life. Understanding Thakur's life in the light of the scriptures. Swamiji, somewhere he said that we have to study the scriptures in the light of Sri Ramakrishna's life. Then only we get their spirit. And at the same time, we have to understand Sri Ramakrishna's life in the light of the scriptures and scriptures in the light of Sri Ramakrishna's life, because they are not different. So, what is a scripture? The experience of a sage is called scripture. And who is a sage? He who experiences what has been taught in the scriptures. Now, why this correlation is, for us to understand this correlation is very important, because the truth is only one. Since truth is one person, if he discovers the truth, thereafter any number of persons discover the truth, it will be the same. Then what is the use of a sage? So why so many sages? There are two reasons. One reason is all of us have to understand the truths. So simply because a sage or Sri Ramakrishna said something, so that is true. It is true for whom? For them. Yes. Simple example, God exists. Scriptures tell, Sri Ramakrishna said. But each one of us, is it the truth? Or is it only faith? Faith. It is only faith. And does faith really help us? Sri Ramakrishna, he used to give common examples to illustrate these profound truths. Here is a sweet, and he didn't say about sweet. Here is liquor, wine. So here is wine, there is no wine. The man is telling, here is wine and I am drinking it. Will he get intoxicated? No. So if he wants to get intoxicated, actually he has to bring the wine and eat. Then what do the scriptures tell? What does the sage do with this example?
The scripture is describes the wine without actually being there.
No, that is true. But what the scriptures tell, not only they tell wine exists, but we also come to know through the scriptures wine exists. But that is the confirmation. Where is it available? And how is it available? And what happens if someone drinks it? So the scriptures tell only these 2 points, that where is it available and how is it available. Is showing the path. That is why the very word Shastra, that which points out. Guru, the very word Guru, what does it mean? Guru is what is called he who shows us the directions. So that is the role of Guru. What does a sage do? The scripture can only describe. What does the sage do? He confirms and says, I have drunk the wine. And how do we know? When a person says, I have drunk the wine, how do we know?
Look at his life.
Because he's drunk.
His behaviors.
He is intoxicated. That's exactly how do we know Sri Ramakrishna had seen God? Because he behaves like God. It's a beautiful understanding. What is it? Brahmavit Brahmaiva bhavati. A knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Therefore, what do we understand now? A knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. And how does a knower of Brahman, when he becomes Brahman, how does he behave? How does God behave? God behaves like God. So we don't know how that God behaves. But we know here is a person who says, I have seen God, means I have become God, and his behavior shows. And that is how the scripture cannot do that. Scripture, the Sri Ramakrishna scriptures are like
the envelope.
Almanac.
Almanac.
maps.
Directions.
Just now I said, they show you the directions. Scriptures are like maps. But a sage is one who has taken that map and reached the place, and his life is transformed thereby. Even that, not only that, there is something wonderful here. So here is a point, and here is a destiny, God. So as the sage, he is not a sage yet, because he is still called sadhaka. So as he is moving, his behavior also slowly is becoming like what?
God.
Like God.
Like God. That is how we also have to understand that as we progress in, how do we know that we are becoming God-like? We have to behave like God. That is what is called Sthita Prajna Lakshana, Samadhivan Purusha Lakshana, imitation of Christ, imitation of Buddha, imitation of Ramakrishna. This is why the description given, how does a sage behave, how does a Jivan Mukta behave. Swami Nikhilananda, he translated a book called Atma Bodha, self-knowledge. And in that, he gives beautiful introduction, extraordinarily great introduction. And in the end of that introduction, so how does a liberated in life behave? How do you recognize a Jivan Mukta? He gave a graphic description, not his own. They are all culled from Vivek Chudamani, culled from Atma Bodha, culled from the scriptures. Beautiful description. So I am just giving reference in case you are interested. So what is so natural to a realized soul must be cultivated by us. That is called sadhana. Otherwise, what is sadhana? Yeah. Okay, so that is the first thing he said. Second thing, why they describe, even though somebody is telling the truth, we do not know that that is the truth. So we live by faith. But even by faith, our life becomes slowly changed, isn't it? You can see, as we are progressing, our faith also increases and our behavior also changes, and it must change. But if we know exactly what changes have to be brought, then it is easier for us. It is like knowing what to do, what not to do. So that is what the scriptures also function. So we said, even Sri Ramakrishna in that sense is a Rishi. We will come to that point. So now, as I said, we will only study the first 16 pages, having Swami Saradananda was an extraordinarily analytical type of person, but not like a ordinary analytic person. He experienced all these truths by himself. We discussed it. I quoted also. Once somebody asked him that you have described about samadhi, have you experienced? First he gave a very funny reply. And he said that were we cutting grass when we were with Sri Ramakrishna? What do you think we were doing? And then later on, in order to write about tantric sadhana, he specifically have practiced tantric sadhana with initiation. He got initiation from a tantric guru. Yeah. And now we understand why Swamiji could not have written that book. Because if he had to write on tantric sadhana, then he also would have to get initiated and all that. Yeah. There's so many things are there. Sri Ramakrishna prevented him. As you know, when he went to, wanted to get initiated by Pavahari Baba, Sri Ramakrishna prevented him. Why did he prevent? Because his mission was totally different. Okay. Certain things we have to clear. How this great master came to be written. There are two reasons. Because even Swamiji himself had said, Sharat will write. He could have told Swami Brahmananda will write, or Turiyananda will write, or Swami Avedananda. Now there is something very interesting. If you compare scholarship, Swami Avedananda's scholarship perhaps was much deeper than even Swamiji, academically. Of course, some people may controvert, but he really studied all those things. Swamiji studied in a different sense, but he studied like a scholar. So he could have written, but he could not have written because Sri Ramakrishna's will was not there. Because to understand these things, one has to have that mental makeup, God's grace, and of course every disciple has his own mission to fulfill. Okay. So Swami Saradananda, Swamiji himself said, Sharat will write. And the curious way in which it came to be written, that Swami Saradananda wanted to build a house for Holy Mother. So he took some loan. Now that loan had to be repaid. And to repay that loan, he started writing the biography so that in course of time it becomes a book. That book will be sold and the proceedings out of that book will go towards removing the debt. Do you think that is the real reason? No. It cannot be the real reason. It is divine will. Like Swami Vivekananda's mission in the West. Now we know what was his mission. But originally what was his purpose? Why did he go to America?
Collect some money for India.
Apparently. And he didn't get much money. But then he understood that this is my mission. I have a mission to the West as Buddha had a mission to the East. Swami Vivekananda had said. And that is the truth, divine mission. Swami Saradananda started writing this in 1909. 1909. And he passed away, I think in 1926. 28? 28. So, he has not completed. The biography of Sri Ramakrishna ends on 1st January 1886 with the Kalpataru. But Sri Ramakrishna lived until August 16th. And so he has not written. some notes were jotted down, but he never wrote. He was asked, why did you not write? And he said, first of all, Holy Mother was there. She passed away in 1920. He said, my power has been taken away. She was the power. Then 2 years later, Swami Paramanandaji passed away. Swami Saradananda completely lost all interest. He said, I was not writing. It was through Mother's grace, Sri Ramakrishna's grace, I was writing. Now that inspiration is not there. Even though there are some collection of facts, now I can't bring myself to write about it. So that's what had happened. How did he write? Did he start from page 1? You know what he did? He started with the 3rd volume, 4th volume. Then he came to, I think, 1st and 2nd, 2nd and 1st, and 5th, last one. So 3, 4, I think 2, 1, 5.
Are you talking about volume or chapter?
Volumes. You know, in Bengali, like M's Kathamrita, first it was written in 5 parts. Now what we get is, in 1953 or so, Swami Jagadananda brought out the first English translation. Long before that, it was being translated in, I think, in our Prabuddha Bharata or Prabuddha Bharata magazine it was coming for many years. So that is how the book was written. So what was the apparent reason? To get rid of the debt. What was the real reason? Sri Ramakrishna's divine will. And lot of more facts are coming, and Swami Paramananda had done a great lot in researching and doing all those things. Okay, now we are entering into the proper book. You know, there is a beautiful index. That index itself runs into several pages. So I have taken some important things. So before I go, I will give you a small introduction. Swami Vivekananda, he made a remarkable statement. The statement was, God has divided his whole universe into 2 parts, the East and the West, the Orient and the Occident. What he said, all the spiritual truths will be discovered, classified, analyzed, and recorded and kept available for the whole world. That is the mission of the Orient or East. And what is the mission of the West?
Material and scientific truths.
Any other type of knowledge, secular knowledge, including all the sciences, etc., that will be the greatness of the West. So he said, this is the God's economy working, division of labor. And so he said, neither the East is complete without the West, nor the West is complete without the East. The East is compared to a blind, the man who is a lame man who could see. The West is compared to a blind man who could walk. Beautiful analysis. What is this analysis about? That the East has the wisdom and the West has the energy. So the East is like the engine and the West is like the body. And body without engine is useless. Engine also without the body is useless. So division of labor. And so that's why there was a lot of misunderstanding later on. Do Indians, do they become very arrogant that all the spirituality is in the East only? You know, China, East means, Orient means China, Japan and India predominantly. Not one incarnation came from the West. Christ was not born in the West. Only in the East. They belong to the Orient. All major religions are born only in the East. But the West has the capacity. It has taken and it has packaged it. It has missionarized, spread, and it did so many things. That's why the East has never become missionary except in Buddhism to a limited extent.
About the Middle East, Swamiji, Middle Eastern part.
It is all considered Orient, not West. You don't call Middle East. And now they are calling. In those days, it's anything that is not Europe or Australia or the Western civilization has come, it is all called East Orient. Yeah. Okay. So why incarnations are born in India? This is how Sri Ramakrishna starts with the introduction. Why is this introduction? Because Sri Ramakrishna is one of the incarnations. So why are incarnations born in India and not elsewhere? So one of the reasons I just now gave, what is it? Division of labor. So it is one point Swami Vivekananda says, this is not to demean anybody. It is to say both are necessary, both are valuable. Secular knowledge, without secular knowledge, our Eastern countries or the Orient suffered a lot because they were arrogant. And without spiritual knowledge, the West also has suffered. Somehow, historically, this is the setting from the very beginning. That's why in India, why great heroes are born only in the West. Why are great heroes, great scientists, they are all born, majority, only in the West. There is an important law. The law is, whether it is individual or nation, there is an important law. You know what is that important law? We get what we expect to get. So India always has expected people to become spiritual, to become monks, to become God realized, to become sages, and that is why in India they encourage anything. Whereas here, if somebody steps outside the limit set by the society, either they kill them, crucify them, burn them, or do whatever it is. Whereas in India, they always expect people. Before we go further, one important notion has to be, India is very religious country. Doesn't mean spiritual. We have to be very careful about it. It is religious. The backbone of India is religion, Swamiji said. So there are so many people I heard and writing it. India is a country of spirituality. It is true. But what do they mean by that? That means most Indians are spiritual. It's a totally false notion. There are many Indians who are spiritual. Even today, they renounce the world, they go here and they don't advertise, and they are sincerely struggling to reach. The idea is vibrating there. But that doesn't mean every Indian is a, just as every Western is not a scientist. Yeah. So with this, we can start. So why incarnations are born? Why? It is a country from the very beginning. Don't ask why, because that is far past in the, when we look at it, hundreds of thousands of sages or rishis were born. Who is a rishi? It is very important to understand who is a rishi. Before that, it is important to understand what is the relationship between religion and spirituality. What is religion? Religion, spirituality in external formalities, including pilgrimages, temple worships, and rituals. India was a ritual-ridden country, so also China, so also Japan to some extent, but nothing like India. Now what happens? This religion is a platform out of which it is like a ripe field, cultivated field, out of which spirituality can grow. Without religion, spirituality cannot grow. Like without a platform, you can't stand. Without foundations, you cannot have a building. But if there is no building, foundations are absolutely
Useless.
meaningless. Is a wastage. So predominantly even today, India is very, very religious. So many people are turning, especially now, after some craze is gone through, many people are turning. The curious thing is, daytime they go and visit the temples, nighttime they might visit nightclubs. This peculiar thing is going on in India. But daytime they will go and make 100 prostration, especially Navagraha, 9 planets. People believe more in the planets than in God Himself. Very superstitious and all those things are there. Of well-educated people. That's what is happening. Okay. So, who is a Rishi? You know, what is the foundation of our Hinduism? What are the foundational scriptures? Vedas. So, Veda means true meaning of Veda. We already had discussed, if you remember, what is it? The knowledge which cannot be obtained through our ordinary 5 sense organs is called Veda. And that is true in Bible, that is true in Quran, that is true in Janda Avesta, that is true in Tripitaka, that is true in any religion. The rest is what is called human made. Human made. That is called Smriti. Another word for it is Smriti. Now, what in Vedas, vast literature is there, that is the discoverer of all these Vedic truths, extra-sensory truths. Who discovered?
Rishis.
It is the Rishi. So what is the definition? Definition of a Rishi is mantra drashta, a seer or a discoverer of truth, spiritual truth, not any truth, spiritual truth, mantra drashta. So we will discuss a little. There were thousands of rishis were there at that time. Now there is something very curious because this is intimately connected with our study. There are thousands of rishis. Of these thousands of rishis, for some reason, we don't know why and how, 7 rishis came to be greatly venerated. These are called Saptarshis. Before proceeding further, we have to remember a fact. We all believe that Swami Vivekananda was one of the rishis, not even one of the rishis, a small part of one of the rishis. And where were these rishis residing according to Sri Ramakrishna?
Indivisible.
Akhanda Rajya, indivisible realm. Now where from Sri Ramakrishna came? Same place. Akhanda Rajya. What is this Akhanda Rajya? If you translate it English language, indivisible realm. But that doesn't make sense because in indivisible realm you cannot distinguish. That is the meaning of indivisibility. But here, what I understand, I may be wrong, but this is my understanding, what Sri Ramakrishna called Bhava Mukha, the realm between the absolute and the relative. There is a realm, the threshold of the absolute and the relative. And that is what Sri Ramakrishna said, all the incarnations come from there. And that idea is connected by Swami Saradananda here very well. Sri Ramakrishna's vision, you remember? He said, one day my mind had gone to the realm of indivisibility through the path of Samadhi. And he also confirmed there are lots of worlds he was crossing. And he said, in each world, beings higher than human beings, they were capable of acting and interacting in that realm. But as we cannot see at midday sun, they can't see towards the higher realm than their realm. They can't see beyond that. So one after the other, these realms have been transcended and ultimately landed in Akhanda Rajya. Now, rational explanation. Why do I call it Bhavamukha? Why do I call it Bhavamukha? Because if he has gone into the absolute, you can't say there are rishis, there are incarnations or anything, absolutely. But if you say it is relative, then also we are all in the relative world only. It makes no sense. So there is a realm in between where these great souls reside, and at any given time, for a curious reason which I don't know, 7 rishis at any given time, they are the rulers of this entire universe, one after the other. So that idea Swami Vivekananda expresses, Jrumbhita Yuga Ishvara Jagadishvara. But what we get in the Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, somehow our rishis themselves have recognized a difference within themselves. And they divided that there are 2 people who are of the highest among the rishis. This is called, one he calls, what is that? Kalpa Niyamika, that means one who rules the entire universe. And the next down in the hierarchy is a manifestation of that Kalpa Niyamika, Ishvara, whom we now call Avatara. Incarnation of God. It is an idea you can't understand with ordinary these things. They have extraordinary powers, realized souls. They keep themselves for some time, but somehow they come down now and then. So 2 points to be noted down here. 1 point, for a particular time, like our David Cameron is the Prime Minister, for how long? Until someone elects somebody else, until we elect somebody else. So there is one of the rishis in the form of Ishvara, he will be Yuga Ishvara. For this Yuga, he will be in charge. And from that Yuga Ishvara, a small part comes down every now and then as an incarnation of God. Jrumbhita Yuga Ishvara, Jagadishvara. 2 important words. Jagadishvara means ruler of the world, but for a time being. And out of him comes Yuga Ishvara. Yuga Ishvara means for a short time. What is the difference between these 2? Between these 2 is, this Jagadishvara is only one kalpa until one kalpa lasts. Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. Whereas in this Kali Yuga itself, how many times these Avatar Purushas have come? We ourselves know. Rama had come. Rama of course in which Yuga? Treta Yuga. And Krishna came. But here Buddha came. In which Yuga Buddha came? Kali Yuga only. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in which Yuga? And Ramakrishna came in Kali Yuga. Kalki is coming in which Yuga? So a part of that Jagadishvara becomes Yuga Ishvara. This is an idea. Now if you ask me how is it justified, no, I don't know. Because these are things. 2 fellows were quarreling about a ghost. One said it is white. The other said no, it is black. Now both of them were asked by somebody, have you seen? Both of them said no, we have not seen. And they are quarreling. The ghost is white color or black color. So if you ask me what is your idea, it is only what these great souls present, I tell. And Sri Ramakrishna's gospel he gives, there is an area in this world, a part of the world, where the ice never melts. And that is that Akhanda Rajya, from where different forms of gods and goddesses emerge. That is what we have to understand. So, okay, 7 rishis. Who are the 7 rishis? This is only just information. You don't need to note down. Agastya, Atri, Bharadvaja, Gautama, Jamadagni, Vasishtha and Vishwamitra. This is one version. This is the popular version. But there are other versions. Added Bhrigu, Kashyapa, Gung, Paulastya, Pulalaha and Kratu. These are also considered to be added. So sometimes when you look at the sky at night, there is 7 stars. I don't know what is it called, Jack?
Great Bear.
The Great Bear.
Great Bear. And at the end of it is a small starlet. So that is called Arundhati. But anyway, it's a wonderful idea. So one of the rishis is the ruler of this particular age. Who is that rishi? We don't know. These are guesswork. But we think it is Vishwamitra Rishi. Yeah, Vishwamitra Rishi. Why? Because Swami Vivekananda and Vishwamitra, there are some similarities. The first similarity is both of them are extremely short-tempered. Extremely. The second similarity is, the word Vishwamitra is an Asha Prayoga. If you understand grammatically, it is a terrible name. Vishwa Amitra. That means he is enemy of the world. But it is Vishwamitra. It is Akara, short Akara became Dirgha. Vishwamitra. He is the ruler he is the friend of the whole world. Because in his life, he helped so many people out of compassion, whom others have refused. And Swamiji's mind also is like that. Third similarity was, both are Rajarshis. Vishwamitra first, he was a Raja. And Swami Vivekananda was also Kshatriya, Raja, Kaya. Fourth similarity is, Vishwamitra was deeply merged in meditation. Swamiji, according to Sri Ramakrishna, was a Dhyana Siddha. So, similarities are there. This is our guess. We don't ultimately Akhanda Rajya, which is your A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, that is only guesswork we are doing it. So, these are the 7. I will read out now who are the Saptarshis, are the rulers of the cosmos. And every particular age, one Rishi becomes in charge. And there is no election. It is by God's will. They are also called, in other words, Manus. Manu. That's why we are all called Manavas. Manu's descendants are called Manavas. I will read a few thoughts of Swami Vivekananda on the Rishis and the sages. The truth came to the Rishis of India. They are mantra drashtas. Now what is mantra? Drashta means a seer. What is a mantra?
Truth.
Mantra means truth. A truth which saves, that is the meaning of mantra. Mananat trayate iti mantraha. The truth which, if we accept it, saves us from every calamity, gives us freedom. That is called mantra. Yeah. The truth came to the Rishis of India, the mantra drashtas, the seers of thought, and will come to all Rishis in the future. What is he saying? Not only there were Rishis, but there will be also Rishis in the future. Hey, my friends, until each one of you has become a Rishi and come face to face with spiritual facts, religious life has not begun for you. Very parallel. There is a parallel thought. Once Swami Brahmananji was asked, when does spiritual life start? What did he say? Spiritual life starts after Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That means, where are we now? Yeah. So, all of us have to become a Rishi. In what sense does it mean? if each soul is potentially divine, and if we are all really potential divinities, then what would be our destiny?
Realize the divinity.
There is no choice, but we have to become rishis. Here is a curious thought also. If I ask any one of you, are you a rishi? What would be your answer?
No.
Potential.
Potential.
What it means is, I am going to become a rishi after 100 births. Not now. Don't expect the behavior of a rishi from me. That's what it means. But truth to speak, the moment we take initiation, the moment we start, we are rishis. Maybe in a small way, we are all rishis. This is one sense. There is another sense which we will have to accept. That sense is, you may be reading Great Master, you may be reading Upanishads. When will you, even intellectually, understand it correctly? Only when you become a rishi. In the sense, who is a rishi? A discoverer of truth. So like, I will give an example. 2 plus 2 is how much? 4. Even a child can tell, even a computer can tell. But when did we discover? It's a very important question. When did you discover 2 plus 2 is 4? When you were small? No. That was information. Somebody told you 2 into 2 is 4, like that. But when did the real understanding dawn?
When you found two
Much
objects.
When you
together.
understood, actually 2 plus 2 is 4. Do you get what I am talking about? Only when, not information. When you really understood 2 plus 2 is 4, then you have become a rishi with regard to that fact. Same way, when do we really understand what Sri Ramakrishna was talking and what the Upanishads are talking, and it is the same, what Gita is talking, it is the same. When do we understand really?
When we experience it.
Until we become rishis, those truths we have to rediscover. In that sense, every Vedic truth has to be rediscovered by each one of us. See, simple example, Swami Vivekananda was praying to Sri Ramakrishna, please grant me Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Until he really experienced Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which first time happened in Kasipur, I think on a Shivaratri night or so. Until that time, did Swami Vivekananda know the truth of Nirvikalpa Samadhi?
He knew, but he didn't realize it.
Intellectually he knew,
He didn't know.
but factually he did not know. The moment by Sri Ramakrishna's grace he understood, he experienced, he knows. Now I know. There is a beautiful parallel to this thought. In the Chicago Parliament of Religions, Swami Vivekananda sang out this Rigvedic truth, which comes in Mahanarayana Upanishad. Shunvantu Vishve Amrutasya Putraha. Listen ye, children of immortal bliss. There is a sentence there. Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parasta. I know that effulgent being who is beyond all darkness, Aditya Varnam, of the nature of light, Tamasah Parasta, beyond all ignorance. That is one statement. The following statement is even more. Tameva viditva atimrutyumeti nanyah pantha vidyate ayanaya. Only by knowing that Purusha, one goes out of all misery, out of death. Until that time, we have to be reborn again and again and again. So what was Swamiji telling? Swamiji was telling, I can tell you the truth. But each one of you know will know the truth only when you have become a sage. When you know, you have become a sage. When you have become a sage, you know what it is. So in that sense, all of us, we will never know a single sentence of what we are reading here, a single word of what we are reading here, until we also know it through experience. Yeah. This is with regard even to secular knowledge. H2O. How do you know, when do you understand H2O? It is an obvious truth to any scientist. H2O, water. We have information. We know water, but we don't know it is H2O. What is the difference between these two? A person who experienced water, he can drink water, but he can't produce water. But a scientist who knows H2O, he can produce because he has become master. Knowledge is power. He can do that. So, this is what he says. Until each one of you has become a Rishi and came face to face with spiritual facts, religious life has not begun for you. Rishis are those who come face to face with spiritual truths. If there have been sages and Rishis in the past, be sure that there will be many now. It is my firm conviction that we shall be even greater Rishis than any that our history presents to us. Rishi's state is not limited by time or place, by sex or race. Vatsyayana boldly declares that this Rishihood is the common property of the descendants of the sage, of the Aryan, of the non-Aryan, of even the Mleccha. That means everybody. The ant has only to evolve and get the body of a sage or a Rishi, and the Vedas will come out, eternal laws expressing themselves. I will deviate just a second in this. The ant has only to evolve and get the body of a sage or Rishi. So the ant has the potentiality. It is also potentially divine. But to when does it become a Rishi? When does it become a Rishi? It must get.
Human birth.
Here, I am reading again. The ant has only to evolve and get the body of a sage or Rishi. So in that sense, the ant might become a human being. Does it mean that every human being is a Rishi or a sage? You may give names. Yeah, there are names, Rishi. There Arya. There is also a Rishi's name. But one has to get that body. What is that body? What is that body?
Human body. This is what is different.
We are all having human body. Every spiritual person has a very special type of body, predominantly made up out of sattva. That's why Sri Ramakrishna, in his great master, he describes some of the characteristics of worldly person. And he says, when I look at a person, I know who is a Paramahamsa or not. He says clearly. Very interesting part is there. What is it called? Physiognomy. Physiognomy. Men and women's bodies and all that. So every great soul must have an appropriate body. What is the point here? The point is, body is an instrument. And this body is made out of what?
Fire.
No. Made by whom? By thoughts. Our physical body is an expression of our thoughts. So, if the thoughts of the sage, then the body also will be of the sage. And if the mind is of a rogue, what do you think the body will be? Of a rogue only. That is why Sri Ramakrishna says, I can recognize just by seeing the body who is spiritual or who is going to be spiritual or not going to be spiritual. There are so many wonderful things we might discuss during our course. The mass of knowledge called the Vedanta was discovered by personages called Rishis, and the Rishi is defined as a mantra drashta, a seer of thought. Not that The thought was his own. That was not it. The thought was not his own. It existed in the universe eternally. This sage was the discoverer only. The rishis were spiritual discoverers. The discoverers of spiritual truths. This is a small portion I selected from the statements of Swami Vivekananda. There are huge number of statements, more or less, meaning the same, scattered at different times. So, now coming back to our study of Sri Ramakrishna's life. The very first thing is, from the very beginning, India was full of rishis. So, there are three types of, who is a rishi? Who is a rishi? A discoverer of truth. And what type of truth? No. According to popular Indian thought, discoverer of any truth is a rishi. For example, mathematical rishi, Aryabhatta, or astronomy. Somebody was there, astronomy. Or medicine, Charaka and Sushruta. And so many rishis are there. But only one common factor. Any Tom, Dick and Harry cannot discover this truth. They can discover through hard labor, without character. But these people discovered through what means? Intuition. Intuition. That's why even they had knowledge of the stars more or less accurately. They didn't have these instruments. How did they discover? Intuition. And even today, many of these discoveries, they are only done intuitionally and not ordinary ways. But one thing common to all the rishis, they were all dharmic people. What is dharmic people means what? They are all righteous people. They did not lead loose type of life. Very strict type of life only they have led. That's very important point for us. And there are three types of rishis. Three types. They were married, mostly they were single, or some of them were also monks. How many? Three types. Single, married, or monks. And majority of them were married people. Even though they were married people, they led very strict lives. Sri Ramakrishna gives a glimpse of that rishi's life. In the gospel, early morning, 3 o'clock, they will get up and go away far from their cottages. Whole day they will sit and deeply absorbed in meditation, and in the evening they will come and then they will eat some fruits and roots, other things. Some points to be noted here. The point is, in those days, ancient times, thousands of years back, maybe about more than 11,000 years back, that is as far as history goes, Indian history goes, not that everyone was a rishi. Most of the people were like us, very ordinary people, quarreling and selfish and then acrimonious and doing what we are doing. Quite a good number of people, even though they were householders or single or monks, they led extraordinarily austere lives and developed the power of intuition. I will give you one or two illustrations. You get it in Mahabharata, in Bhagavatam. There was a great sage, and he was married, and he was absorbed in meditation. And one day his wife came to him. He said, Bhagavan, we are married for a long time. I am longing for a child. Will you please give me a child? Then he says, yes, I will give you a child. And then there are certain methods, I'm not talking about artificial way of giving a child. It is a very natural process, but there is a particular time and they have to do particular type of ritual, and after that, they, husband and wife, they meet. Very common examples are there. Means how much self-control they had over themselves, both husband and wife, leading that kind of righteous life. They were called Rishis. Another example I will give. So one wife, she was overcome with desire and the Rishi was deeply absorbed. So she approached him at dusk. And then he understood, he asked, why did you come? So, I want children. Come and let us have union. He said, no, this is not the right time. This is the time for demons. She said, no, I am overcome with this. I can't wait. He was forced. And so they had union. And then he said very sadly, you asked for children, but you didn't listen to my advice. You could have got good children because you forced me to have union. You will have demons, asuras will be born because of the inappropriate time, inauspicious time. See, that's why they are called Rishis. So many. Then, very famous example, Agnivalkya had two wives, Maitreyi and Katyayani. And after some time, and he was very intelligent, most foremost among the scholars, he was richest, and he had the most popular ashrama. And then one day he said, I would like to become a monk. So most of the time that was the way. After leading, brahmacharya, garhastya, vanaprastha and sannyasa. That was the way he wanted to keep the shastric regulations. So 3 types I said. Some of them had chosen not to marry, and some of them had chosen to marry, and some of them straight away, among those who were not married, some remained just single, not become a monk. And now that ideal came after Sri Ramakrishna today. Before that, society looked down upon people who were not married. Either you become a monk or you get married. But now a third type came. Both men and women, they are at home, they do office work, but they come to the ashramas or they render some social service. Excellent life they are leading. Very happy. Okay, these are the 3 types. All of them leading a dharmic life. Okay, with this background, the first, Swami Saradananda in this, he puts each chapter, para 1, point 1, topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, like that so many. I have chosen some. First, spirituality is the pivot of life in India. Even today, religion mixed with spirituality is the pivot of life in India, even today. And why? Second, the frequent birth of great souls in India is its cause. So many great souls were born in India. Don't ask why. Somehow it has happened. Even today it is happening. Every century in India, you will show me one century where no saints have been born in India. Show me one century. You will not get it. So, frequent birth of great souls in India, why is it so? We get what we expect. What does India and what does the West expect? What does India expect? Have you ever seen India expects great political leaders, great statesmen, great heroes like Alexander, Caesar, Napoleon, or even Genghis Khan. Does India ever expect? They admire, but they never expect. What do they expect? We want great spiritual people, great devotees. Somehow that idea is there. That is why we get what we expect. This is a psychological truth. What is the psychological truth? It's wonderful even to discuss this point. What is the psychological truth? We become what we expect. Because when you really expect something, where will your thoughts be? on that subject. I want to be like this. I want to be a rich man. Then what will be your thoughts? I want to be rich. I want to be rich. A strong desire will come. And then you say, how can I become rich? So, like that, they thought also, how can our country as a nation, how can we expect saints? So what happens? Psychologically it is primed, as we say, to produce. And what happens? We get what we expect. What does the West expect? Has it ever said anywhere in history, we expect great spiritual people to be born? No, they will not say. What is, we want great heroes. That is why in every century in the West, you will get some great man or the other. Okay. Second point. How do we know that this is our pet notion or is it a fact? That we get what we expect, and India expects spiritual people and the West expects great people in other fields. How do we know? Two facts. Two facts, not only it happened, but it will also happen. So why it happened? Because they expect. So the second point that we have to understand here is that you see the whole cultural or physical life is geared towards this expectation. What is the lifestyle of an average Indian? Eat the minimum. Exceptions always will be there. I am talking about in generality. See, if you can prolong one dress for 6 years, why buy second pair? Let it go on. That's why even Indian people's mosquito also becomes very holy. Understand? There may be holes. There they don't want to give up. The lifestyle, Swami Vivekananda pointed out, don't apply it to every individual. Apply it in general. India's aim is on how little a man can live. And in the West, the ideal is on how much can a man live. Did Swami Vivekananda make such a statement?
Yes.
If you have read, you will confirm it. I am not going to give you quotations and all those. That is for your homework. And why did he make? Is it because he was extolling it? Hyperbole? Oriental hyperbole? No, it's a fact of life. He studied history. Even today it is true in the future also.
But Maharaj, with the globalization that the world is going through, where India is becoming more and more materialistic. What you're describing, I think maybe in villages in India, but I think there are many big cities now where people are wanting more.
Yeah. Wanting
they are
more.
Copying the Western way of life, and there are people in the West now who are seeking a spiritual life.
Yes.
So a kind of mix has also happened.
Yes. But that is our explanation is, first of all, India was deprived of so much of this material happiness for a long time. Now it is just 100% it is going out. The second important part is, how many people in India, after a little bit of experience, are slowly turning towards spiritual life. You go to our temples and you will see it. And the reverse also is true. How many people in the West now are turning towards spirituality, New Age spirituality? Here also people are turning. And that's why Swami Vivekananda came, that you are deprived of this part. The other part may be okay. Without this part, the other part will be only zeros. He clearly mentioned it. So in India, it is one without zeros. Here, all zeros without the one. So there must be a balance. And that is what is called samanvaya. It is called harmony. That's what Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna came. Roma describes Sri Ramakrishna as master of both harmony and synthesis. Why two words? Harmony means bringing about a right understanding, right balance between two opposed ideas. What is synthesis then? Synthesis is how one can live a practical life combining both of them. Is called synthesis, not synthetic life. Be careful. Synthesis, life of synthesis, beautiful harmony and synthesis. This is what Swami Vivekananda preached was nothing but what Sri Ramakrishna had taught him. He only elaborated it. As somebody said, so Sri Ramakrishna was the aphorism and Swami Vivekananda was the bhashya, commentary upon it. He did not say anything. In fact, do you know what he said? If anything good has come out of my mouth, it belongs to Sri Ramakrishna. And if anything contrary to that came, and it came from me, it is my fault, not Sri Ramakrishna. You should not judge Sri Ramakrishna from what these thoughts. Not only that, I read last time, when he criticized, Swamiji wept. And then he said, I am not fit to preach because my master never criticized anybody. And in his name, I criticized you people. Yeah, and he did not allow what he spoke to be published. He banned. It is not fit to be published. Okay, coming back to our point now, each one of us have to become a Rishi. Another point is, spirituality is the pivot of life in India and it will be the pivot of life in future. This is what Swami Vivekananda said. And he also issued a dire warning. The day spirituality disappears from India, the world will come to an end. India will come to an end and the world also will come to an end. And what is he telling? Without spirituality, nobody, east or west, can really live a successful life. Temporarily, yes, but not for a long time. And it is being proved to the hilt now by statistics. What is the statistics? That 1 in 3 is mentally sick. Governmental statistics. Yeah. Okay. So, what is the cause of this spirituality? The frequent birth of great souls in India is its cause. So, East stands for spiritual life, while the West stands for all the progress in secular knowledge. This is the economy of God. The religion of India is founded on direct realization of God. This is a very speciality of Vedanta. You know what is the speciality? Direct realization of God, not faith. Faith is for beginners. But experience, realization, that is why Swami Vivekananda's very definition of a religion. Religion is the realization of God. And not only that, he gave 3-4 beautiful definitions. Another, religion is the eternal relationship between the eternal soul and the eternal God. And religion is the manifestation of divinity in man. Whereas education is the manifestation of perfection in man. What is the difference between these two? So education brings out all your what is called mental potentialities. Perfection. Already perfection is there. Knowledge is there. Whereas the field of religion is to bring out the spiritual potentiality. That is what beautiful definitions. That is why, suppose somebody says, I don't want to become spiritual. Fine. You don't need spirituality. When you want, it will come. Until that time, why don't you bring your perfections which are already within yourself? Maybe great scientist, maybe great writer, great poet, great musician, great cook, great anything. You have got that capacity. Why don't you bring it out? What is the difference between these two? The difference is, if a person succeeds in manifesting his potentialities more or less fully in any other field, after some time, that very faculty turns on towards spirituality. That's why Swami Yatishwaran Maharaj used to say that scientists are nearer to God than most of the so-called spiritual aspirants. Scientists, why are they near? 3 reasons he gives. Every scientist, to be a good scientist, must fulfill 3 conditions, or must possess 3 qualifications. We know what are they? First is a definitive goal, not a goal. One day we will say that I want God. The next day I will reverse the position. I want. I'm not joking. What it means is, we are like a madcap. So I want a car, I want a house, I want to go and die in here and there. These are that is no. Goal means I want God. That's it. Period. I want only God, nothing else. Goal. Second, discipline. Every scientist, nobody had become a great scientist with indiscipline. No man has become great with indiscipline. Everybody has become great only through discipline. What is the third?
Commitment.
Concentration. So, goal, discipline and concentration. That is the key to success in any field of life. And a scientist, every great scientist, have these 3 things put together. And therefore, all that they need to do now,
Direct.
and in fact it will come. Because a scientist by definition is a seeker of truth. So once you get to some point, then you will automatically, it will take you to God. Not only that, Swami Vivekananda made stupendous statements. One of such statements is, you pursue chemistry to its ultimate goal. And what do you find at the end? God. You pursue physics. At the end, what do you find? God. Behind every chemistry means, how many elements are there? Then you go behind. Or I can give you the other analogy. You go on finding what is the basic material of this world? Atom. People thought it was atom. Then they succeeded in atom is not the ultimate. It could be split. And what did you get? Neutrons, protons and electrons. And they thought that was the end. Then they split those things also. So many went on splitting and splitting and splitting until they came what they call energy. Who knows what they are going to split? That's why after going on splitting and splitting, what did they become?
Split personality.
So ultimately, whatever go on like that, don't stop, and ultimately you come where you cannot go any further. What is that point called? God. Truth. We call it truth. Brahman. Nothing else. So that is absolutely truth. So it is wonderful even to contemplate on this. In India, we expect more of the spiritual goals, whereas in the West, it is more of they are also in search of knowledge. Indians are also in search of knowledge. We are not talking every Tom, Dick, Harry in the West is a scientist and every Tom, Dick, Harry in the East is a spiritual person, in general trend. So that is why the spirituality is the pivot of life. So the religion of India is founded on direct realization of God. Because Indians don't believe, if you have not seen God, then you are not spiritual. How do you know? You may believe, that's good. To begin with, faith is good. But you don't, that is why Swamiji used to say, it is good to be born in a church, but not
to die
in it. What does he mean by that?
That means you have to progress, you don't stagnate it.
Yes. Don't stagnate. What is church? What does church represent? Church, temple, mosque, what does it represent? Certain dogmas, certain doctrines, you are expected to mug up and then not progress. If you deviate from there, then you will straight go to the other place. Yeah, this is what every priest, every Indian Purohit and every mullah is teaching. So we will stop here, and there are wonderful things we will discuss in our next class, 2 weeks hence. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu.